Are we recording?
We are recording.
Wonder Woman 84 and the Mandalorian Finale. So when we want to drink water during the show, we've got Trey's show coffee mug.
I love it, man.
Get that mail, mother. Tell us your rating, and then tell us why.
Mr. Hat.
Mr. Hyatt. What does Mass Effect mean to you? What does Dragon Age mean to you?
It's a good
what
idea.
does Final Fantasy mean to you? I could tell you what Street Fighter means to me, or Killer Instinct.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Trey show, mother. All right, guys, welcome to the Trey Show, where we like to talk about a variety of topics and stories that have no common thread other than we find them interesting. On the show, we're going to share our totally unqualified opinions on whatever the hell we want, and we're going to have a good time doing it. And we hope you have a good time watching it. So let's start with the stories of the week. First up, Cyberpunk, the disaster. On December 10th, CD Projekt released Cyberpunk 2077 after years of development with quite a bit of fanfare, including a commercial with Keanu Reeves. To say the launch had issues would be a criminal understatement. The PS4 and the Xbox One versions have been reported to be totally unplayable with frame rates at 15 frames a second, with the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC versions garnering a bit more rosier reception. Trey, who's at fault for this debacle?
You are.
I take full responsibility, and the investors that are suing them, they can come after me.
So I actually think there's a number of people that are at fault, and we can actually go back to some of our experiences, Chris, when we worked together. Obviously somebody made the decision to go ahead and release it. There's always a person or a team that has the authority to say, no, we're not going to release this, and obviously there's repercussions for that, or to say, nope, we're going to release it and we're going to deal with the fallout from it. And I'll kind of come back to that. The people who were managing the project, whether they didn't set proper expectations or they didn't keep the team on the proper path for the project. Now I say that also understanding, and I've never worked in the video game industry, but you hear all the time that everybody wants to be a programmer, but programmers are heavily overworked, especially when it comes to a large release like this. So I think that's an issue within the industry, but definitely the people that made that decision, and there's no doubt that it was a money-driven decision, right? We get it. The large companies like Activision or EA, or in this case, CD Projekt, they had to make a call to release it. No doubt there were people that knew that it wasn't ready. Now, what I will say, and I'll kind of wrap it up, and I want to get y'all's opinion on this as well. If they had delayed it again, then everybody's complaining that they delay it, right? But we also live in a world now where, because of patches and day one updates and updates throughout, we were talking about The Witcher 3, that I'm not saying it's acceptable for companies to release games unfinished, but it happens pretty often, and it's always bad at the beginning, and then as long as the game is good, once it gets patched, and I think everybody kind of forgets about that. The last thing that I'm going to say about this is the original Xbox One and PS4s are 7-year-old hardware, right? So I think the expectation has to be, okay, it's not going to run on 7-year hardware, but they did a very poor job of setting expectations with consumers, people that spent their hard-earned money in a very tough time to go out and spend $60 plus tax on a game that you can't play, and especially something that you're really excited about. That's unacceptable for them to let them do that. So I think there's failures all across the board for that.
Yeah, and don't release a game for a platform if the platform can't handle it.
Right.
So I don't disagree at all that it's old hardware, but then they should never have released it on that particular hardware. And I think it's a good point that you made too. I think it was misleading for a lot of consumers. Yeah. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yes, misleading. I think it's a bummer. I mean, I didn't really look forward to the game that much, honestly, until I saw the commercial with Keanu Reeves. I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I did a little bit more research into the game, but I just have a basic Xbox One, so no plans in the future to upgrade because most of what I play right now is on that. So it's kind of a bummer that I probably actually won't buy this game.
If the reviews were that you could play it, would you buy it?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
Which is also
I think reason. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No. I think it's an interesting point, and this company has a history of releasing games that push the boundaries, that require months, if not a year or more, of patches and updates to really get it to where it's really playable. I think the Witcher franchise is a great example. So to some degree, I think some of the more informed gamers should have known this was coming, but a lot of consumers wouldn't have realized that it was going to be to this level of problem.
It's also a reason I know everybody wants to, pre-download it and play it at midnight, or whatever time it was that you could actually play it. That's an exciting thing, whether it's a movie on release night or a game on launch night. But I do think it's a lesson also for consumers to go, well, if I just wait a day or two, the way social media is and Reddit and everything, if there's serious issues with the game, you're going to know right away. So yeah. I know personally, I waited till the 24 hours after the game was released. And the way you download it, or you can just walk into a store and buy a physical copy, it's not like the games are sold out to where you have to pre-order it or you're not going to get it. So that might be something for consumers to look at also.
All right, guys, let's wrap up the conversation on Cyberpunk and move on to the next topic, which is HBOMax film release strategy. So Warner Brothers has decided to release their entire 2021 slate of theatrical films on HBOMax, which is amazing. This is unprecedented because of the number of and quality of films, and I was blown away when you look at the list of things like Dune, Godzilla vs. King Kong, The Suicide Squad, Matrix 4, among many others. A lot of filmmakers are up in arms, including Trey, our favorite, Christopher Nolan. Is this a mistake, or is this the future of AAA film distribution? Tony, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is that it's probably the future. Netflix kind of kicked everything off with their streaming line. Their movies get nominated for Oscars, other kinds of awards. Now the big names, Spielberg, Nolan, they're not too big of a fan of what's going on with all that from what I've read in the past and things. But I mean, it's the future. I mean, COVID definitely kind of swayed it that way. I think, it pushed it even more into our present, just because people not being able to go out, sit in theaters, things like that. I don't have an issue with it. Then again, I'm not the director or producer that's making millions of dollars or could be making millions of dollars for something that gets sent to theaters. So as a fan, I'm excited. Out of those titles that you listed, Matrix 4, Dune, really looking forward to. Godzilla versus King Kong, that's kind of more of like a guilty pleasure. It's probably going to be just to see it happen. I'm not too excited about Suicide Squad. I'll probably watch that too. But yeah, I'm excited about it. Excited about the future and what that holds for streaming.
Trey, you have a lot of opinions about this topic, so I'm interested to get your take.
Oh, yeah, I've talked for 6 months. If they would just adopt my release strategy, they would make twice as much money as they do in a non-pandemic year. But no, obviously, I kind of kid about that. But so you hear a lot of people that are complaining about this because they enjoy the movie theater experience. I enjoy the movie theater 100%. One of my favorite nights is when a big movie comes out. My wife and I, we pre-ordered, get tickets as soon as they come out. We go to, Movie House Eatery, get the reserved seats. We get there 30 minutes early, have a drink at the bar, have dinner and watch the movie, and then have a drink after, and we discuss the movie.
Well, it's the experience. It's the experience, right?
It is, and it's the whole thing because, and obviously everybody's different ages, but it's something that we look forward to. And she's easygoing. She likes most of the movies. So I enjoy that. So having said that, if they're going to do a dual release where they're going to come out in the movies as well, I think that it's the best of both worlds, because there are some times where I want to watch a movie, but maybe I just don't feel like going to a theater. So having the option to do both, I think is really, really good. So I think that helps out both crowds. But what they're going to have to figure out is, if they're not getting as much box office revenue, then what does the revenue model look like, right? It's going to have to change. And is that, and kind of going back to what I would always joke about is saying, you should charge somebody $20 to rent a movie, a new release movie, but it's a rental. And once you start it, you get to finish it, and that's it. And I think they would actually get recurring rentals and recurring revenue off of a new movie. One household could rent that movie 3 or 4 times over the course of the 3 or 4 months before it's actually able to officially rent or buy online. So I think that, combined with the theater, I think that could be maybe an updated revenue model, but I think they'll just have to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. And I think that's the key, the crux here of where some of the contention is with the current strategy by HBO Max and by Warner Brothers is around really is that they're taking films that were built, budgeted for, contracts signed around theatrical releases, because there are bonuses tied to directors and actors based on theatrical performance, things like that. There are investors that invested in the movie under a financial model assumption, to your point, Trey, that assumed a global release in non-pandemic times. Obviously, nobody can predict this. And they're taking that now and fitting it, kind of taking a square peg into a round hole into the streaming model. It certainly helps the HBO Max product, but I think it's kind of rubbing some of the filmmakers the wrong way. I think what you said is key. What's the revenue model? I don't know that the streaming services are going to be the right place to fund and release $150 to $200 million blockbuster movies. But I do like the idea, and what Wonder Woman 84 has done with the dual release. It's actually made decent money in the theaters. It's drawn a lot of eyes to HBO Max. I think there is a future there if they can find the right model. I think they're gonna have to play around with it. And Tony, to your point, I do think the pandemic has completely changed the landscape of theaters forever. I don't think we'll ever get back to where we were. I think some kind of hybrid model will have to take hold for that, just the movies in general, just to sustain where they were before. I don't think we can go back to what it was pre-pandemic. So I think that's really interesting. All right, so I'm going to bring this one to a close as well, and we're going to move to our next story, which is around the Warzone Cold War Season 1 release. So guys, on December 16th, Call of Duty fans received the Season 1 update. I've played it. It's been interesting to get into, and this really integrated Warzone and Cold War into single game. It introduced new weapons, new skins, game modes, and a new map in Rebirth Island. The update was extensive, almost too extensive potentially, created some overpowered weapons, and also came with a few bugs. So I'm interested, Tony, should Call of Duty have merged those two games? And what do you think is next for the Warzone franchise?
Should they have merged them? We talked about this earlier, Trey. We played for the first time last night as a trio, us three. And so having played Blackout about a year ago actually about 2 years ago, actually, great game. They added an island, Alcatraz Island, which is the Rebirth Island. Basically, same thing. Looks a lot better on Warzone, but same exact thing. Fans were always, requesting a different map, changes to the map or expanded areas, things like that. Kind of like with Warzone. It's big enough that you can deal with it, but at the same time, it's like the same thing over and over and over again. And then with Blackout, all they really did is they took buildings that you couldn't get into and allowed you to get into them. So they changed it, but they didn't really add new areas. So with the new release that they did, I think it's okay. I mean, I don't play the anything other than Warzone with it. I enjoy the big battlefield area, so that's where I kind of look at it. In the future, man, I wish they would put a new map. I wish we'd get a whole entirely new map in general. I don't think it's going to happen because it didn't happen with Blackout. The Rebirth Island is going to be their version of an additional map, and I mean it's still pretty cool. It's just not personally what I would prefer, but I don't know, Trey, what do you think?
So I agree. I think they had a date that they were going to merge it, and then it's kind of weird because it's like Season 1, it's Cold War Season 1, but we were on Warzone Season 6. I think they probably put too many guns and merged too many things, and we're seeing with the unbalanced and overpowered weapons with the DMR and the MAC-10, and a lot of frustration. There's still a ton of hackers, which we see a lot of the professionals obviously being very vocal about. When we die, we don't really know if it's just somebody better than us or a hacker. But I think it's interesting because what are they going to do? What's the model? Again, I know I was talking about that with the streaming service too, but what's their model going forward? Because Cold War wasn't very well received. There wasn't anything in Cold War that I don't want to say that anybody really cared about, but there's nobody that was playing Warzone that went to go play Cold War and stayed there. They went and they did, they wanted to unlock the weapon skins and do the challenges, and then they've come back since it's Warzone. So what would be interesting is, do they scrap the games every year, and do they just go to a Warzone model? I don't think they'll do this, by the way, because there's too much revenue. Do they just go to a Warzone model where instead of spending time developing the new game, they're actually developing a new maps for Warzone and keeping that battle royale style? So there's two different companies involved in the development, so I think they could still do that, but maybe they could do something where they're doing a little bit more of a split, where one company is working on, okay, the multiplayer and the next technically game, and the other company is only working on Warzone updates, because what players want is new guns, updates to the maps, new areas, new maps, and from Activision's standpoint, when they merge all these guns into Warzone, if I'm them, if I'm only worried about money, then I'm just thinking about, well, how do I sell the next skin, right? How do I sell the new DMR skin, or the new Mac 10 skin, or it was the Bruin, or it was the Grouse? So, those skins run $20. Can you imagine how much money they're making off of that? So Activision is a large company. They're focused on money, no doubt. But it'd be interesting to see what they can do based on what the community would like to see, maybe versus just what's going to get their pockets bigger. So.
Yeah, so I've played the update pretty extensively. It's a lot. I think it's too many, in my opinion, too many guns, too many new additions at once. I think, to your point, Trey, it's difficult to balance when you're introducing that many things, especially as you're merging two different games. It'll be interesting to see where they take it. I do feel like that Battle Royale is the future. They're going to have to figure out how to build around that. They've clearly come up with a really good way to monetize it. The fact they gave that game away for free and then brought these gamers into the fold that way was really, really smart. And I've seen the same thing that you've seen, Trey. It doesn't look like that there's a lot of passion out there for Cold War. The passion is really for Warzone. I think some iteration of that in the future, and they're gonna have to expand on it, but I see Warzone itself becoming a franchise for them for years to come. And I think everything is gonna need to really revolve around that. And I do think they need to listen to the pros a little bit more. I think that the pros, in my opinion, have a lot of really good ideas about how to try to balance the weapons a little bit more. They're the first to identify when something needs to be nerfed. And I think that they drive a huge aspect of the gaming community, right? People watch them stream. People are following them on Twitter, on YouTube. And so I think that they need to listen. The hacking that you talked about, the hackers are out of control. They've got to do something about that. They've got to balance the weapons a little bit more. And I really think that the pros should have a little bit bigger voice when it comes to that. But so far, it sounds like it's been pretty mixed on this update.
I do want to say, and I do want to give them credit, and obviously none of us played Fortnite that I'm aware of, but man, there hasn't been a game that us three got together and played since Gears of War 2.
Right.
And we've been playing it for 8 months, and I can't remember a game that I've had more fun just playing with my friends. Like, that was the reason that I bought a PS4 and an Xbox and built a freaking gaming computer. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it, but regardless, I think it's been a really cool experience to get back into it, and even just that was kind of our ritual 3 or 4 nights a week, playing for a couple hours. And like I said, when was the last time we did that? 10 years ago or something like that. So
it's been amazing.
Yeah, even I think I read that the next Halo is supposed to have its own Battle Royale mod to it now. Man. So I mean, everyone's kind of jumping on the bandwagon, which I'm cool with. I love that game. It's awesome. Yeah,
your
really
lives matter when you're playing that game.
But it's also about going back to, and we're going to wrap this up in a second, Trey, but going back to your comment on the movie theater side, it's about the experience, right? And I think Battle Royale, especially team-based Battle Royale, creates a memorable experience that's unique within gaming. And we've played tons of multiplayer games. All of us have, all the way back to your point, Gears of War. And even we talked about, even farther back to the Xbox X-Band era. So we've been playing multiplayer for a really long time on PC and on consoles. And I think Warzone's been one of the most compelling and immersive experiences that any of us have ever had. So I think there's something to be said about that. So good comments, guys. All right, so switching gears to sports. I said that we talk about whatever we want. Nothing has a common thread. So let's talk about the playoffs, and we're going to talk about the Cowboys. The Cowboys somehow were able to beat the Eagles, and Washington lost this past weekend. So Trey, this has suddenly changed the Cowboys' chances of making the playoffs from 6% to 27%. It's probably the highest percentage they've had all year. The Cowboys play the Giants on Sunday. They got to win that game. And the Washington football team has got to either lose or tie to the Eagles. First, the Cowboys going to win. Second, regardless of what happens, what's next for this franchise?
Well, they're going to win the Super Bowl, obviously. No, so here's what I think. I think their chances are way higher than 27%. Their defense has been playing a lot better. They've had 10 turnovers in the last 3 games, and they had 12 turnovers in the previous 11. So defense is huge. Turnovers are even bigger. Gives the offense a short field. And then I think the other thing is Andy Dalton has been playing really well. The offense has looked really good. So
yep, his split from the first few games to his last few games is just night and day.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot better. So you combine the offense and the weapons that we have. They've been able to somehow manage with the offensive line. I think they have one of their starters, and that's it. And then with obviously the offense and the receivers that they have. So I think you combine those two in a defense, and I don't think the defense is not good, right? They're like bad, like, one of the worst defenses ever. But when you get turnovers, you can give up points, or you can give up yards if you're given turnovers. So I think those two things combined, I think has allowed them to turn it around. I do think they'll beat the Giants this week. They don't know yet, or we don't know yet if Alex Smith is going to play for the Washington football team. I think that's huge. Haskins got released, and I don't even know the name of their third stringer. He was a backup in the XFL. So they're playing the Eagles. The Eagles have already said, we don't want somebody celebrating a division championship on our field, right? So they're playing in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field. So I would say if Alex Smith doesn't play, there's a much higher percentage chance that the Redskins win. I do think the Cowboys will win as well. So you kind of couple that to be a little, fan out a little bit. You guys know I'm pretty realistic Cowboy fan. When you've won 4 in a row and you go into the playoffs, that's huge. I don't think they have the talent to make a deep run. I think they'll get exposed by a good team. The other thing is the teams that they beat for up to now for the 3-game winning streak all had backup quarterbacks. So the 49ers had a backup quarterback. Cincinnati had a backup quarterback. Philadelphia had a backup quarterback, although arguably their backup quarterback is better than their starter, than Carson Wentz. So I actually think they will make it in the playoffs. I'd love to see them win a playoff game, but everything changes and you get exposed really quick in the playoffs.
So what's been your thoughts on McCarthy? Is he turned it around? Is this because of him, or is there some other factor that's driving the Cowboys' success in the last few games?
I think you have to give him some credit. As much as, and I think you can't judge a coach on his first year. Garrett was here for 8 years. It's a country club atmosphere. You have all of the poor talent and the poor mindset that he had. And I think in football, it takes 2 to 3 to 4 years to turn something around. So my thought on him is he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think, and obviously he was going to get a year 2 or year 3. I think you really need to look into year 3, but we'll start to see going into the offseason if they make some, subtractions to the roster, which I think they will, because he's going to go, we can't win with this guy, with this guy, with this guy, with that guy. And that was something they did earlier. They cut 3 players on the defense, and it instantly boosted morale. So where I think in the past those guys may have gotten away with some of that, what my hope is that McCarthy will come in and clean house and bring in some higher character guys. I know that's a generic statement, but it's huge in football. You can't win with guys that don't care. So
I agree. I think it's gonna be tough though with Jerry Jones. As long as Jerry Jones is the owner, he'll put talent in front of character every single time. So all right, so let's bring this one to a close on the Cowboy side. So I'm excited. I'm with you, Trey. This is going to be an exciting weekend. It does seem like every year, the last week of the season for the Cowboys is basically a playoff game. And so this year is going to be no exception.
One more week, one more exciting week. I'm glad
one more week.
Yep.
And then to your point, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So they can win out. It could be really interesting. All right, guys. So let's talk about MCU and Disney Plus streaming plans. So at the recent Disney Investor Conference, Marvel announced over 10 series that are going to be debuting at Disney Plus. Includes some previously announced stuff like WandaVision, Winter Soldier, but also some new additions like Moon Knight, Ironheart, and new details about Loki. So the question here, is Marvel ahead of the game with their strategy to aggressively blend the small screen with the big screen? or because of the number of shows that they're looking to release, are they at risk of oversaturating the airways and creating fatigue around the Marvel brand? Tony, let's start with you.
Okay, creating fatigue. So I would say that if we're not fatigued by the superhero universe in general, be that Marvel, be that DC, whatever, if we're not fatigued by now, we're not going to get fatigued at all. I mean, from what I can tell, people keep screaming more and more and more, which I think Marvel's doing a pretty good deal on with the movies now with Disney Plus, the shows they're going to have. Seen the trailers, WandaVision. To be honest, I don't get it, but that's cool. I'll watch it when it comes out and see what I think.
For the record, Tony, I'm actually pretty excited about that series. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a bit of a mind fuck.
Good. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm extremely excited for the Loki, whatever they're doing with Loki. Yeah,
me
cool.
too.
Give me more. That'll be a lot of fun. What else do we have?
Moon Knight, Ironheart,
and then Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Yep,
Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yep.
That should be pretty good too. Should be pretty good. So I'm excited about that. I don't think you can't get any more saturated than it already is. I mean, Marvel's announcing what they're doing. DC's got an idea of what they're trying to do. So our next future in the next 10 years is going to be all superhero. But I mean, what was the last 10 years? So I'm excited about it. Trey, what do you think?
So I think, and I go back to the word you said, Chris, with fatigue. So everybody talked about, well, we had Star Wars fatigue, or, Disney, people got Star Wars fatigue. I think people got Star Wars fatigue because the movies just weren't that good, right? They weren't telling any new stories. The Han Solo movie was not a new story. We knew how that ended, right? Even Rogue One, I know everybody loves it, and I think it's fine. It wasn't introducing a new universe. And I know there's a spinoff for one of the characters, and I can never remember his name, and everybody enjoyed the movie, but they're all prequels, right? So I think there's something to be said. I know we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 84, kind of in the prequel realm. They're not opening us up to new adventures and new stories that can be branched out into something new. So I actually think fatigue comes from when the content isn't very good. So I think if Marvel can continue to reinvent itself every time, it seems like with every phase, when you would say, okay, well, I'm sick of another superhero movie, and then the Avengers comes out, and it's like, okay, at the time that was freaking awesome. And then kind of skipping forward a little bit, Thor 3, like how cool was that, right? Like they continue to reinvent, but they also have a way of telling these stories that are separate. And then when they pull them together, you have all these emotional ties to these different characters. So certainly anything can be oversaturated, and there can be too much of a good thing. But I think as long as they're telling good stories and they're different, right? Like, I don't know what WandaVision is going to be about. Like, I don't even, like, they have like black and white previews and then like future, like, I mean, that's cool. So I trust them that they're going to have a different formula to things, and it's going to be something that's completely different. And I do think they do a really good job. Again, I know I keep going back to Thor 3 is a good example of allowing people to hire people that are very creative and still, they have kind of an umbrella that they want them to work under from a storytelling standpoint and where they're trying to go with the movie, but giving them the ability to use their creative direction on things. And that's why they get, I think, such really good. I mean, look at the Russo brothers, right? Where do they come in at Winter Soldier, I think? And then they just kind of gave them more and more and more, versus you see like the Star Wars, where every director is getting fired, right? Like they hire the guys that did 21 Jump Street and the Lego movie, and then they didn't like the direction of Solo. And then they brought in Ron Howard. And what did we get? Solo was a very generic movie. It wasn't anything that changed anything, but if you're going to hire directors like that, you got to give them the ability. It may not be something that you agree with, right? But that's the whole purpose of hiring somebody with a different creative direction. So sorry, I went on.
New. I'm looking for new, like anything new, like the Eternals, right? The Eternals, I think last I heard, November of 2021, all new characters, right? Same universe apparently, but all new characters. Like, yeah, give me stuff like that. I want to see new.
I think that's the key, right, Tony? So it's new characters, but in the same universe. It's that connective tissue. I think that's exciting to a lot of people and to me. And it's interesting because I'm hearing that Warner Brothers is actually looking to use some movies to introduce characters that are going to get spin-off shows on HBOMax. And And I think you're also seeing opportunities where characters who are actually born on the small screen are going to start to make their debut on the big screen. I think the big screen, by leveraging that, allows you to legitimize a character in a way that you can't otherwise do. And I think it gives them a little bit more just credibility on the small screen as well. And so kind of having those crossovers and then leveraging both the movies and the TV shows together to tell both parallel and connected stories, I think it's a very cool thing that we're just starting to get into. We really haven't seen it to this extent ever before. I mean,
no, it was
crazy.
great. Yeah, it always seemed like before it was looked down upon for someone to be in an actual movie and then appear on cable. But now that we have these streaming services, like, you know, I had read that they're going to have the She-Hulk series and Mark Ruffalo is actually going to be like he's going to guest star in that. So we're actually, like you were saying, we're actually starting to see the bigger stars from the A-list movies show up in the sitcom, show up in the shows and things. I think that's awesome. It's what I've always wanted. It's always been kind of like, man, it'd be great if they could bring someone from the movie and put them in the show, but it just never happened.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin Feige's always had that unique ability to take the one thing everyone's always wanted and then make it real. And this to me seems like the next step, the next evolution of the Marvel brand. I'm very excited for him to get more involved in Star Wars. Side note, Trey, they should just take it from Kathleen Kennedy, just give it to Kevin Feige and move on is what they really should do. So, all right, so I'd be okay with that too. I'd be okay with that too. All right, so let's bring this discussion to a close. And we're now going to move to really the next segment of our show, which is reviews. So every week we're going to review some different shows on here. We'll spend a few minutes talking about them. And there's two that we're going to talk about today: Wonder Woman 84 and the Mandalorian Finale. Trey, I like it. Although, to be honest, based on what I know you're going to say, I don't know that you should be wearing that. So guess what, Trey? We're going to start with you. So what I want you guys to do is tell us your rating and then tell us why. Trey, it's up to you.
So about an hour into this movie, this is what I wanted to do to myself. So we had talked about this, and just, you know, for the viewers, I'll leave this on. For the viewers to know, you know, we text, we're good friends. So we typically talk about things, you know, even before we get on the show. So I did not like this movie. I was very disappointed in it. My rating was a 6, if not even a 5. It's fluctuated between a 5 and a 6. I thought the script, so there was multiple reasons, right? It wasn't just, well, I thought it was boring or this or that. I liked the first one. I really like what they did with the character. I really like Gal Gadot. I remember watching her in the Fast and the Furious movies. I'm a big Fast and the Furious fan. Chris always makes fun of me for that. That's a movie theater trip when the Fast and the Furious movie comes out.
Classics.
Christopher Nolan said he's a big fan of it, right? So
Tokyo Drift.
Right. That's actually a really good one. So I really like what they did with the first one. I liked what Patty Jenkins was building, what she was building with Gal Gadot. I thought it was really cool to have a female director kind of leading that charge. And, you know, especially in the superhero scene, going, look, I can make a really good superhero movie and maybe branch off and build a franchise. So they obviously gave her more responsibility in this one. She was part of writing the script as well. The script was a mess. They kind of didn't know what they were doing. They said it in 1984, but then imagine they don't have any music from the 80s. Hans Zimmer did the score. I love Hans Zimmer. Like, you could not imagine, you know, all the Christopher Nolan movies he does, I love him to death. But I think they had a real missed opportunity where they could have done actually something, I know I'm going to say Thor 3 again, something different that had some retro throwback 80s superhero moments. And when I'm watching the opening and I saw the mall scene, I'm like, man, okay, it's kind of campy and it's kind of cheesy, but maybe they're going to do a blend of how superheroes are now, but they're also going to do some cool throwbacks to the 80s, to, you know, Richard Donner's Supermans and things like that. So I was really excited about that. Obviously, as the movie went on, there wasn't a lot of action. One of the things that they're talking about is Chris Pine's character, you know, him basically taking over this guy's body, and Wonder Woman just like having sex with the guy without his permission Like, where's his wife? Where's his kids? And, you know, this is a character that obviously has very high moral standards. So and we'll do a more extensive review, but just, I'm going to say from a high level, but I've already gone past that. I was really disappointed, not only, you know, from the script standpoint, but how, you know, a lot of the decisions, I didn't like the villains. And I kind of thought it was a mess and it was a waste. And I still thought Gal Gadot did a really good job in this movie. And I still think she's awesome. I think she's perfect for the character, but they didn't do anything to really move her character forward. I'm not excited for the third one now like I was excited for this one.
So I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. So my rating was a 7.5. I know we've debated and discussed this before.
So 7.5 is between good and great. So are you willing to say no what?
No, I would say an 8. An 8 is good. 7.5 is mediocre.
We go by the IGN ranking scale here. Shout out to IGN.
No.
And 7 is good and 8 is great.
No, if we saw a game at a 7 or 7.5, well, I never adopted it. So can I tell my review? Is that okay?
So yes, but just what word? Because we like the IGN review scale because you have to kind of commit to like it's good, it's great, it's
fair.
So a 7.5 is fair? Wouldn't a 5 be fair?
No, 5 would be crap.
Okay, so before the next episode, we need to align on a rating scale.
Fair enough. Let's do it. So I thought, yeah, if you can shut up, which is difficult to do for you. If I would say the movie was fair. Was it great? It wasn't good. It was fair. I see what they were trying to do with it, and maybe I'm giving Patty Jenkins more credit than she deserves. But I do view Patty Jenkins as a filmmaker. Not all directors are filmmakers. I think she is. I think she was trying to create something. She had really total control, a la Christopher Nolan. In fact, there's articles about how Warner Brothers really wanted her to remove one of the first 2 scenes, whether the scene of the younger version of Wonder Woman going through their Olympics, whatever that was called, or the mall scene. I think the movie was overlong, overstuffed. I do think the villains were a little bit campy, but I think that's what Patty Jenkins was going for, was sort of a mix. You brought this up, Trey. I think what she was going for was almost a mixture of sort of that grounded Christopher Nolan style, which you're seeing in the DC films, with a little bit of the camp from the 80s. And I think she was trying to merge those together. I actually think she did it. I think if you watched it again, you're not going to like it a lot more, but I think you're going to respect the movie a little bit more. I do think that the script was a bit cohesive, although the plot holes are crazy, right? The wishing stone, all this, the storyline around it is ridiculous. There's so many just unanswered questions around that, a lot of things that are vague. But one thing I think is really interesting, I don't think a single person died in the movie. And it might be the only superhero movie I can think of where nobody died. Think of one person that died in that movie. Nobody did. So I think Patty Jenkins set out to tell a larger story. I don't think it was appropriate to try to tell in a Wonder Woman setting. It didn't stick at the landing by any means, but I respect what she did. I also love Kristen Wiig. I love Gal Gadot. Like you said, Trey, I think she's perfect as Wonder Woman. I thought the movie just would I have been pissed off if I spent a ton of money and went out to go see it at a movie theater and spent $50 on drinks and snacks? Yes. But I think the other thing you got to think about too is that my mindset was a little bit different because I watched it on HBOMax from the comfort of my own home. And so my expectations probably were a little bit lower than yours were. So Patty Jenkins apparently has 2 more stories she wants to tell with Wonder Woman, and they've greenlit the third one. And to your point, I am less excited about the third one than I was about the second one. I'm still going to watch it though, and I'm probably still going to critique it. And there are going to be things I like about it and things I don't. But I didn't hate it as much as you did, but I didn't like it. And I want to be clear, so we're aligned, Trey, that you understand just because I didn't hate it doesn't mean I didn't like it, or doesn't mean that I liked it.
So how is
Tony,
that a 7.5?
I don't want to. Trey? Okay, we're done. Tony,
Sorry.
Tony, what was your rating? What did you think?
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I hated it, man. I like I said in our text earlier, I love that we all have different opinions. I mean, I think this is the best part. Otherwise, what's the point of even having these discussions if we were constantly just like, yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I thought it was trash, terrible. I didn't like it.
What was what's your rating?
5, an easy 5. I mean, that's
Okay.
to me. 5
So is that
generous.
in our scale? Are we saying 5 is trash? Is that what we're saying a 5 is? Because that's what I think of a 5. A 5 is total trash.
Right. 5. So to me, 5 is like I don't even want to watch it again to do the review video with y'all. Like I to pick little things out. I mean, I will, but I just don't want to. Like I have no desire to ever watch this movie again. It was campy. To me, the storyline, there were so many plot holes. I felt like, even though I did actually like this show, I felt like it was an episode of Lost, when the show was over. I just had so many questions, and I was more confused than I was before we started the show. It doesn't fit into the MCU, and maybe it's not supposed to. I don't know. Then again, I don't even know what the MCU is right now with that storyline, the Justice League and everything. The first Wonder Woman, thought was a good movie. I liked it. I would have probably given that a 8. I really enjoyed that one. I would watch that one again. Higher. I would give it an 8. To me, it was darker. It was kind of more aligned with the DCU they were trying to create there. I mean, Man of Steel, Superman versus Batman, whatever. It was just darker. I enjoyed it. This one was, and it wasn't because it was lighter that I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't like the storyline. I didn't like the Steve Trevor twist, quantum leap bullshit that they threw in there, where he looks in the mirror and sees the real guy. But
it was quantum leap. That's a good call, Tony. Exactly what it was.
I was just waiting for who is that, Scott Bakula or whatever his name is, just to go, oh boy, and then cue the credits, the campy music. It was just bad. Like, I don't even know. I could probably go on for hours at how much I did not enjoy this movie. But
so one thing you brought up that's worth just making a quick comment on is that it is interesting the direction that the DCU is going right now. So they've intentionally are allowing the directors now to sort of create their own stories, and they're not really as worried about continuity to the overall DCU, which is a problem in my opinion. Right? In this one, for example, Wonder Woman suddenly has flight. Well, at no point in Justice League or whatever does Wonder Woman have flight or does it that she has anything like that. So those are the type of things, the wishing stone, right? All the wishes that are probably still out there that somebody wished but didn't renounce, right? The whole renouncing of wishes is a whole nother thing. You can spend an hour just talking about that. It's ridiculously stupid. But what's still out there? And so nothing connects to anything. And that's to some degree by design. And then I just read an article today, Tony, talking about that they are going to now really embrace the multiverse. And I think the new Batman movie coming out is going to take place on Earth 2, not Earth 1. And so I don't know how they're going to explain that to audiences as people begin to watch these things. But yeah, they're allowing the directors of these movies now to have quite a bit of creative freedom with no real regard for connecting it. So I guess that's their potential way of differentiating it from the MCU. I think it's a mistake. I think the reason why people love the MCU is the continuity and the connectiveness of the universe, even though there are continuity errors. There are fewer of them than there will be in the DCU. So I guess we're going to see kind of how it goes. But so let's bring this one to a wrap. Trey, to your point, we're going to have a whole nother video that we're going to really dive into Wonder Woman 84. We're going to debate, discuss. It's going to be interesting for us to go through it. And we'll kind of go from there. You're welcome, though, to leave your Wonder Woman costume on, though, for the rest of the show.
They should embrace the multiverse and renounce this shitty movie.
Yeah, I got a whole nother hour I could talk about multiverse theories and things like that. And I think it's just a quick and easy way for them to be like, well, if the movie sucks, we'll just put this on a different planet somewhere and pretend like it never gets involved with anything else. If they just want to crank out movies, crank out shows, and just be like, oh, and this takes place on Earth 152, so it'll probably never cross over with Earth 1. Whatever.
But it also allows them, Tony, to replace actors over time. They can do whatever they want, right? You can take Zack Snyder's Justice League and say it's canon, but it's canon in, to your point, Earth 500. It doesn't have to be canon on Earth 1. So, but at some point they're going to have to anchor the audience in like what is the main storyline and the main Earth that they should be invested in. Because going back to the MCU has established that. And so there's emotional connections and ties to those characters and to the story that feels, really well connected. And now they've earned the right to introduce the multiverse in a way that's going to be impactful and meaningful. And I don't think DC has done the same thing. They're using it more as a gimmick, and to your point, Tony, as a way to sort of like rewrite, what movies they want to be canon and which ones they don't. So, all right, so let's bring this one to a wrap, and let's transition on to the Mandalorian finale. So we did a review show that'll get posted pretty soon around the penultimate episode of The Mandalorian. We spent a lot of time dissecting it. Great episode. Trey, I like it. Excellent. And if those of you that watch our Mandalorian review, you're going to see Trey spend the entire time in that beanie, which is worth it on its own. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the finale. Really interested to get you guys' thoughts. So let's do the same thing. Tony, I'm going to start with you, your rating, and then just give your overall thoughts on it.
Rating, I'd probably give it a 8.5 if I had to. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. Let's put it that way. It wasn't what I wanted to happen on the selfish side. It was not the way I would have written it. Like you were saying about our video before, I think that would have been a little better. But hey, I'm not getting paid to make these decisions, so we'll go with this one. Yeah, I mean, it was great. The fanboy in me was like, of course, and yes, and I got teary-eyed and all that kind of thing. Like, it was good. It was well done. But here we go, relying upon characters that have been a part of the world for a long time. So I was kind of hoping for someone new, but we got Luke, and that was fine. I think the CGI was a little off, but it was
way off. Well, sadly. So I'll go next on this one, Trey. I'll let you go last. Yeah. You can kind of anchor us on this one because I know you're very opinionated about it. So my rating's a 9.5. I actually think the episode was extremely well done. It was pretty amazing. Probably one of the best hours of just pure Star Wars that you could ever ask for. A couple of things that really bothered me about the episode. I think the extended gunfights with Cara Dune and Fennec and the stormtroopers, to me, just went on and on and on, and just kind of got really boring and repetitive. And then I think Luke showing up at the end was pretty awesome. The lightsaber piece that he did was obviously a callback to the Darth Vader scene that was put into Rogue One. And I think it really showed Luke at the height of his power. Obviously, it was a little bit also of a fix for The Last Jedi that unfortunately showed Luke in a much poorer light. I think for me, where the episode fell apart, there were two pieces at the end that really bothered me. So one, I think the Darksaber storyline and the fact that she wouldn't take it from him, from Mando, was just really dumb in my opinion. I know there's history there. I understand that. I understand through Star Wars Rebels that there's a lot of history of how the Darksaber has to be handed down, but it felt suddenly TV cartoonish villain to me versus I'm watching Star Wars and I'm immersed in something better. And then I think the Luke reveal, to your point, Tony, the CGI wasn't really good at all. It was clear that it was CG. It was obvious that it was fake. Sadly, it's better than what was in some of the ones like Rogue One and even the most recent Star Wars movie. And so, I give them a little bit of credit for that. Maybe in time they can go back and fix that. It just, it's fake. It looks fake. And to me, it pulls you out of the moment and reminds you that you're watching a TV show. And I think, to me, that's not what it should do. You should get lost in it. And I was lost in it for the most part. But that moment, the CG totally pulled me out. And that's why I couldn't give it a perfect score. If they'd nailed that, I could have gotten maybe over some of the other stuff. So, Trey, I'm going to hand it off to you because I know you've got all the opinions on this one. So take it home.
First of all, I just want to say I respect both of y'all's opinions.
No, you don't.
They matter to me. I respect them.
No, you don't.
No, I think y'all make some really good points, and I agree with that. Those are some of the shortcomings. However, so for me, it was a 10, not even close. To me, it was one of the best episodes of a show that I've ever watched. Not necessarily because of in the episode I think was really good, but there's certainly issues with it, right? You called out some of those, but because of what they had built and the emotional attachment that you have to not only the Grogu storyline, but and I told you guys I woke up on a Friday morning going through Twitter, and I'm like, okay, like what? I have to turn it off because of what people are talking about, and I just start. It's like 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like halfway awake, and I'm watching this, and so I don't know. At 7:15, Luke's God, I'm blanking on it. Luke's plane. Help me out here.
The X-Wing?
His
Luke's
X-Wing.
X-Wing. An X-Wing pulls up.
You're not qualified to score this.
Clearly not. Clearly not. I kept on thinking TIE Fighter. Obviously, that's not it. The X-Wing pulls up, and you're like, like no way. Like, and we had even talked about it in the review. Like, it would be cool if he came, if he showed up, but I don't think they'll do that. And then I think the way they did the reveal and the music, and we always talk about the music in different movies, Chris, and in different scenes. The music, and then you see the hand, and you see the green lightsaber, and you're like, I'm just like, holy, like this is, and I think the way he went through and to what you said, Chris, the throwback to the Rogue One scene, you kind of got your Luke scene that we'd never really seen that before from Luke, right? From Master Luke, we had never really seen that. I don't think it was a full redemption for what they did to him in The Last Jedi. But it was a start. It made me feel better about his legacy, and even Mark Hamill, had talked about that. So I think when an episode grabs that much emotion from myself, but also when you see around the world and on the internet and on Twitter and everything how people reacted to that, like I think they did something really special, and I think they hit a home run with the CGI. Okay, I agree with that, but I can look past that because they built a story around something that you had an emotional attachment to. And Luke wasn't even, for a lot of people, the biggest emotional attachment. For for Vanessa, for my wife, she cried when he had to give up Grogu. I cried when it showed it was Luke. So I think for a show, a TV series, to be able to do that at those different levels for a new audience and an old audience, and to solve some of the major issues with what's gone on with Star Wars, that's why I give it a 10, but I agree with the criticisms. And I think it also did set up things. It completely broke free of the Grogu storyline, and it set up some new things that I think that we know it would be pretty exciting to see. So that's why I disagree with you guys.
Well, listen, I don't think there's any debate at all that the episode was amazing. So I totally agree with you, Trey. And I had an emotional response the moment the green lightsaber lit up. Like I yelled out loud, "Oh my God, it's Luke!" Like you knew exactly like who it was. You thought you knew who it was, but once you saw that, like you knew it. So it was amazing. I think there's rumors that potentially Sebastian Stan might come in and begin taking on the role of Luke over time. I actually have warmed up to the idea. Tony, you and I have talked about it. I was very much against it. I've seen some of the mock-ups of what he could look like. I think they could potentially make it work. But I would like to see them explore new characters. Going back to the conversation earlier, and that's what, if you look at, The Mandalorian has become the de facto show on Disney Plus. It's an anchor show. It's one of the top stream shows of all the streaming services, and it's on a brand new character that barely touches, some of the characters that we've known, our whole lives, the Star Wars movies. So I think the other thing, and I know, Tony, you'd mentioned this before as well, but Trey, one of the things that I think was a little disappointing is that in the biggest moment in the finale of the second season, where the viewership's the highest, they've built this brand off of original characters. What did they do? They went back to their well. Now I'm not going to debate. It makes perfect sense that Luke's the guy that Grogu reached out to, right? He's probably the most powerful Jedi at that particular time. Based on the timeline, he should be building his Jedi Academy. The timing works perfect. It all makes perfect sense. It just was a little bit disappointing that had to be the moment. The other thing too is it was a little bit fan servicey in that he just sort of showed up, didn't really have to explain himself at all, and then Mando just gave Grogu over, because they sort of manipulated it to some degree, because they played with the fact that we are so familiar with Luke that we trust him. but our main character shouldn't trust him at all. Mando has no idea who this guy is. So I was a little bit bothered by that too. Similar to how the Penny Ultimate episode ended with Mando sending a message to Moff Gideon saying, "I'm coming for you." It was more fan service versus, making sense, in the service of the story. But overall, I thought the episode was amazing. Trey, it was great. I know I didn't give it a 10 and you're bothered by that. You should be more bothered by the fact that Tony gave it an 8. Come on. Like, I gave it a 9.5 at least.
8.5.
I'm trying to figure out how you gave Wonder Woman 1984 an 7.5 and you gave that episode a 9, but that's okay. We have plenty of time to hash those things out in the reviews.
All right, guys. So we're going to get into the final segment of the show. We're going to talk about what each of us are watching and what each of us are playing. So let's start with what are we watching? Tony, I don't want to talk to Trey right now. So we're going to talk to you. What are you watching right now? TV, movies, what's on the docket?
All right. Right now, let's see. So I fell into the black hole of HBOMax since I just got that for Wonder Woman, which at first I regretted, but now I'm kind of enjoying that decision. So I'm checking out their original series, Raised by Wolves. Just a couple episodes in. I think the first 2 were done by Ridley Scott. So that was interesting, exciting, very alien-like, like his series, or Prometheus. It has a very big Prometheus feel, which I enjoy. Darker, kind of, futuristic, pretty cool. Yeah. We started Doom Patrol just a couple days ago, and I think we're actually on episode 5 now.
What do you think about that so far? I'm interested in checking it out.
I'm liking it. It's it would be a rated R superhero sitcom, kind of like The Boys, but not really. Like, I still think The Boys was better, but this has got the sex, the violence, the blood and the guts, and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. And then his Dark Materials as well. So those are the three shows I'm watching on HBO Max. Which, if you don't know, his Dark Materials, there was a movie released years ago, maybe 10, maybe a little more, called The Golden Compass. So it's based off a book trilogy. Interesting so far. I like it.
Yeah, I love The Golden Compass. I didn't do well enough in the theaters to garner sequels, unfortunately, which is disappointing because I really liked it. I just haven't been able to get excited about the HBO series, but I might have to go check it out. So on my side, I've been watching. I'm going to finish the Midnight Sky, the new George Clooney movie. It's on Netflix.
Nice.
I'm going to finish that up probably tonight. I watched a show called The Flight Attendant on HBO Max. Tony, to your point, I've been kind of going through the HBO Max hole. It's got Kaylee Cuoco, I think is how you say her name. She's from The Big Bang Theory. It's her new series. Interesting, dark. Tony, to your point, I prefer it to this kind of dark. It's kind of a dark dramedy.
Nice. Okay.
It's drama, little comedy, but definitely skews to the dark side on that. And then outside of that, I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna watch. I'm looking for a new show to pick up. So I got a couple that I know, Trey, you've recommended that I'll probably check out pretty soon. But that's kind of where I'm at. Trey, what about you?
Yeah, so my wife and I just finished Schitt's Creek.
Great show.
Which is
Excellent
fantastic.
show.
Great show. I can't recommend it enough. You guys were way ahead of that. And I think Tony, you were one of the even earlier. I don't know how long ago, Chris, you got on that, but great show. We really enjoyed that. Before that, we had watched The Boys, which is obviously, darker. And then we had watched Breaking Bad, which was darker than what I thought. And a little overrated, but that's okay. We can talk about that. We can maybe do a review of that.
Yeah, you can't just throw that out there like that. That's a low blow. That's a low blow. It's not overrated. I think you need to slow your roll on that and just focus on the segment. The segment is about what you're watching.
You're right.
It's not about taking shots at Breaking Bad.
It's kind of poking the bear there a little bit. I knew I was going to get a little bit of a reaction out of you. So
I'm just saying. I just need you to stay in your lane. That's all I'm asking you to do.
Okay, fair enough. So now I actually have a couple shows that I'm watching. Start the Clone Wars because of the Mandalorian and the Ahsoka storyline. I went back and started the Clone Wars. I think it's really good so far. I'm very early in. I can't wait to get to the later stuff. I hear it really picks up in season 3 and in Rebels. And then I need to go back and finish The Witcher. I watched two episodes of it. I really liked it.
It gets better. It's stronger.
I just never went back to it. So I need to do that. And then the next series that I will most likely watch with Vanessa, I think we're going to watch Watchmen on HBO. You said that was a really good show.
Fantastic. It's really good. Yep.
And then maybe Westworld, and then
Yes.
Arrested Development is one that we want to go to. So we kind of try and balance. Okay, we just watch like some really dark stuff. Let's watch a comedy or just kind of switch it up. But
Westworld's solid. So you'll like Westworld. It's really good. They're potentially, I think, going to do another season on it, which will be really interesting. So I'm interested to kind of see where that went.
And I watch, and just for the audience, I watch a ton of sports. I mean, if there's a college football game or a bowl game, an NFL game, I typically don't get into NBA until a little bit later on in the season, or until, which I know everything's messed up from a timing standpoint this year. But typically if there's a sports event on that night, so I kind of struggle with that, where I want to watch sports, but we may want to sit down and watch some of our episodes. So a 2 TV setup helps a lot for that. You have the bottom TV or the side TV on your sporting event, and then you have your main show that you're watching with your wife or girlfriend or partner or husband or whatever on the others. So I can't recommend that enough. So.
All right, so let's switch gears to playing. What are you guys playing? I'll kick it off on my side, because really the only game I'm playing right now at all is Warzone. I'm by no means a pro. I'm a hack, but I have a great time playing it. I love it. I play with my friends. I play with you guys. Play with my son. So I'll play solo. But really, most of my time right now, if I have time for gaming, really does go into Warzone. There have been a couple of interesting games that I've seen recently that I'm going to start to check out. Trey, you know that I do like some of the classic side-scrolling games. I do like some of the adventure games. There's a couple that have come out on Xbox Game Pass that I'm going to check out. But right now, my main focus really has been on Warzone. So Trey, we'll go to you first. What are you playing?
So Warzone, obviously, with you guys, I've slowed down on that a little bit to try and manage my time a little bit better and to go to sleep at a decent time at night. But I started playing Cyberpunk, as you guys know. I think it's really, really good. And again, just for the audience, I built a gaming PC a couple months ago, RTX 2070 Super, a Ryzen 3700X. So it has no issues running the game, 60, 70 frames per second. And going back kind of to the console talk that we talked about, how that can be a challenge in those. But I think the game is fantastic. I'm only about 8 hours in, and I think it's really good. So I'm excited about continuing to play through that. And then just as a side note, we did kind of talk about briefly yesterday, maybe doing Gears 5 and doing the co-op campaign.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 3-player co-op campaign for that.
I'm down for that.
And then again, and I don't know, again, the audience, I think anything that we can do together is fun, right? So doing this video together, playing some co-op games together. We all have our lives, and we're all extremely busy, between work and family. So to even be able to take a couple hours outside, at the end of the day or whatever, and to dial it up with your buddies and be able to chit chat and to play through a game, I think it's been really exciting, at least for me. And I feel like just from a healthy standpoint, just being able to hang out and converse with you guys. So,
Tony, what about you?
Kind of the same thing as you guys. Warzone, obviously, with y'all three. Still enjoying that times that we get to play for it. I just started playing The Witcher 3 again. I don't even remember when I got it off Game Pass months ago. I can't even remember when, and kind of got into that pretty good, started playing it. I'm at that point now where with the main storyline, I'm pretty much all the way through. So what I'm trying to do is like all the side missions. So it's one of those games, what are they, Fallout related, Mass Effect related, where you've just got tons of side missions that you can do, or areas that you haven't discovered on the map yet. So you got to go check it out. And it's chill. It's a good game. Graphics are great. I like the soundtrack to it. It's actually right now it's really relaxing. Just ride around on a horse or get in a boat and go explore this world. And those are the only two games I've got. Really, the only thing that's on the radar. Cyberpunk, like just because I hear from Trey, it'd be nice to try it out. But right now, I'm just stuck with Witcher 3. So
That's
enjoying
cool.
that.
So
I'm gonna wait a year on Cyberpunk.
So I'll put you guys on the spot real quick. What games would you guys like if you could stop everything? And we always, Chris, me and you always joke about, like, I have a catalog of games that are still shrink wrapped, and I love to buy games when they're on sale. And I kind of go, well, I know I'm never going to play it, but it's $10 or it's $20, right? So what can we get? So I'll start, and maybe we'll go to Tony and to Chris. So the one game that I want to play Cyberpunk because it's the end game right now. But Final Fantasy Remake I have sitting in shrink wrap on my stand over here. That would be the next one I'd like to get to. Tony, what about you?
Cyberpunk.
Okay.
So I'll be patiently waiting. I don't want to have to get a new console to play it, so we'll just kind of play that by ear and see what goes on. There is some DLC for The Witcher, I think I read, so might look into that. I think I read that there was a couple extra things that you can get. I'd pay for it, just a couple. I'm sure it can't be that expensive right now, but just that and anticipation for Halo to come out.
Yep.
And then I didn't even think about, Gears 5. That sounds amazing. We could do some co-op. We haven't done that in 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer. So that'd be really cool. What do you think, Chris?
So I'm about to go Final Fantasy VII Remake. I waited for years for that. So it's actually pretty funny that I waited and I waited and I waited in anticipation, and it finally came out. And then exactly what you did, Trey. I haven't actually played it. Now, I'm a little disappointed in the fact that it's not actually the whole game. It's just part of the game. They've also made some material changes to certain aspects of the game. I think originally I was thinking that it was just going to be a pure remake in the sense that everything stays the same, just upgrading the graphics to it. So you could sort of re-experience what you experienced as a kid, but just with more modern graphics. But it sounds like they've done a total rebuild to different fighting engine or combat engine and everything else. So, but I want to play it. Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time, and just the history tied to it, that would be the game. There's a bunch of other probably small games that I'd be interested in checking out, but that would be the one. Because as you know, Trey, when you start to get into any type of an RPG, you've got to dedicate a significant amount of time. You just can't pick up and play. Like you've got to really be able to invest each play session. So that's tough for me right now, but that would be the game for me to dig into.
So how about a quick bonus story for the viewers that I vaguely remember? We're going to dig back and do a little bit of the history of Chris. Do you remember when you had Final Fantasy VII on the original PlayStation and you had put a lot of time into it, and then what happened? It got stolen? Your PlayStation got stolen? Somebody broke into your apartment?
Oh yeah, I don't remember that. I think it was the PlayStation that got stolen because it was on the memory card that was in the PlayStation. Yep. And I didn't care about getting the PlayStation back. I just wanted the memory card back. Just give me the memory card back. That's right. Yeah. Well, during those days, you could spend 100 hours on an RPG. With everything that was going on it. So yeah, it was that was tough. But
sorry to bring that up. I thought that was just. It's a story, right? Of how much we care about about games and how much we used to play, and what something can happen, and you just care about that time that you put into it. So,
quick side note. I sent y'all that link. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? About I guess they're gonna make a new Mass Effect. It's supposed to be related to the original trilogy some way, shape, or form. There's a trailer out now for it. That's like one thing I totally geek out on. I cannot wait. Speaking of the games that you said earlier, but that'll be probably 5 or 6 years, because I believe BioWare is also working on a new Dragon Age. So I think that'll actually come out first, and then Mass Effect in the next the next decade, hopefully. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Mass Effect. I don't even know what it's going to be. How many years it takes place after the original third one, so at the end of the original trilogy of games for them. Andromeda was just a shit show of a game. Speaking of all this stuff with Cyberpunk, I remember when Andromeda dropped, I think I got the digital version, or maybe even I got the actual disc like a day or two after, and it was a joke. Like the graphics were all messed up. It was buggy. People hated the storyline. I don't know. I think it was another one of those things where it was rushed as well. And my love for the original trilogy and the original Dragon Age games was just I think BioWare did a really good job with all those. So I'm really looking forward to what they might be cranking out in the next couple years.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to check out. It'd be good, Tony, in some of the future shows, we'll have you talk a little bit about just your experience playing some of those games. I think that'd be cool. I think a lot of people can connect back to that, and just a lot of us in some of the games that we played have played such a huge role just in our childhoods and have shaped just kind of what we love about games. So yeah, we'll look forward to kind of continuing that conversation.
We should do a whole series on, remember we had the championship of all the PlayStation games, and I would just whoop your ass all the time. Toshinden.
No, that didn't happen.
Okay. I remember it differently, but that's okay.
What I remember is that I'm the NHL 95 X-Band world champion. That's what I remember.
Maybe. Steve,
Steve,
if you're out there, Steve, if you're out there, come find us.
I beat Steve. It hurt him. It hurt him deep, but I beat him.
I'm like Grogu reaching out to the Jedi, Steve, please come find us.
The only way you can beat me is if you're going to use some bee shooting. That's the only way you're going to beat me.
Bee shooter PP.
All right, so let's bring this episode to a close. This is our first ever episode. I think this is great. It was a great conversation. We had a lot of great topics. I want to thank everybody for their time today. Looking forward to continuing this. Trey, I'm going to hand it off to you to close this out.
Yeah, hey, just thank everybody. Thank you guys for your support, for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please share. We have so many ideas and so many things that we want to do. We obviously have a passion for the things that we're talking about on this show. Video games, movies, shows, just anything that we're lucky that's mainstream now. So we kind of call it our time to nerd out a little bit and just enjoy all these things. So. Again, just thank you guys for the support, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.